brings the vision, the strategy, the plan. JJ's resilience forged in the sand. Together they rise to sharpen the mind, teaching the hustle, the leader's grind. Leadership Live, where the truth unfolds. Strengthen the stories, the wisdom they hold. From the grind to the grit, where leaders survive. It's Chris and JJ on Leadership Live.
Welcome to Leadership Live with Chris and JJ, the show where we break down actionable leadership principles you can apply in real time. I'm JJ Hardy, Army veteran and leadership and resilience coach. And I'm joined by my co-host, Chris Pienkowski, a former leadership coach who now leads at the corporate level. Together, we bring different perspectives to the same mission, helping you lead better under pressure, communicate with purpose, and grow where it matters. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Good morning, everybody. As I said, my name is JJ Hardy. This is Chris Pienkowski. We're here on another episode of Leadership Live. Before we get started, I'm going to encourage everybody. And by the way, you have been buying it, so keep up the good work. I appreciate you. Leave me feedback if you purchased. Go back to Amazon on the same link that you purchased it and leave some feedback. But speak up, show up, lead. It's my story of resilience, and it's the lesson learned from everything that's happened from my childhood to now, and I encourage you to buy it. Speak Up, Show Up, Lead on Amazon.com. So, Chris, man, we are going to talk about people pleasing. What do you think?
People pleasing is an interesting topic.
It is.
It's something that you have to walk a fine line on, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation. So there's a lot to unpack in this one little topic.
Oh, for sure. And, you know, when you're at work, the last thing you want to do is not do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what you don't do is become that yes guy that just goes along with everything. I mean, going along to get along and just, keeping the engine moving is one thing. But when you start saying yes to more than you can handle, more than your team can handle, and all that other stuff, it ends up turning into toxicity that you don't even know you're creating until it becomes overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely. When you say yes to everything, and you know what, a lot of people, especially if you're, a servant leadership minded person, you want to help other people, right? That's part of your core. It's part of your values. Like we talked about in our last episode, right? Your core values drive you, but you will quickly either burn out or start to feel resentment when you say yes to everything, especially if it's taking you away from what your actual core mission is in the job that you're doing. So from a leadership perspective, we always want to take care of our people, and we always want to be a resource for them. But it's in a way no different than when you're raising your kids. You can't say yes to everything all the time, right? When you do, in the case of having a child, you've got a teenager who can't tie their own shoes because you've always tied their shoes for them.
Yeah.
So the same goes for whether it's the employees, the people that report to you, or the people that maybe you report to upstream. When you're always saying yes, you're always doing what you're being asked. People think, it makes more value for me, right? I'm irreplaceable because I do all this stuff. That's just not true. And you will become resentful faster than they'll see the value of all the things. You just become like the dumping ground, and that's not what you want as a leader.
Yeah, those high achievers that take on everything, it turns into you not having a choice whether or not you say yes, because they're like, you're my go-to guy. You do everything.
Yeah. And
you never complain. You just always get it done. And you kind of want to be that guy and you kind of don't. So you want to be the guy that's a go-to guy, but you don't want to be the guy that just accepts everything. Think of it. You talked a lot about the ethical reasons. I'll go ahead and go into some of the management and maybe the management sort of things, right? So, a good leader, a good manager, I won't even say a good leader. Let's just take that part out of the equation. A good manager understands how to spread the work out evenly and make sure make sure his guys aren't overloaded. A good leader will talk to his people, receive feedback, and make sure they're not overloaded with things and take stuff off of their plate. And that's when you push back if needed. So, and I say push back, you honestly don't take this the wrong way. We want you to be a go-to person at work. We want you to be that one that's willing to go above and beyond when the mission needs it. But what we don't want you to do is when you're at that breaking point and you're just that, and you're having more thrown at you and more thrown at you and more thrown at you. When you push back in those situations, it's not pushback. It's, sir, ma'am, let's talk about why I don't know if it's a good idea that my team takes this task right now. Instead of just saying no. I mean, if you're just saying, there's a empowering thing to saying no to some things, but for the most part, when you're at work and you just turn things down or you say no or whatever the case, and you don't have a backup plan or a solution to present when somebody's trying to give you something to do, you're looked at as a complainer and a crappy guy. But you still should find a way to push back if you know that your people are at your breaking point. Your guys haven't had vacation in a long time. That their workload is already a lot, and you're already trying to figure out ways to reduce their workload because mistakes are being made. There's potential of injury at depending on what field you're in. There's potential of attitudes becoming on edge and creating a bad environment. I mean, when it comes to those types of things, if you just accept more, you're feeding that negative fire instead of supporting a healthy workforce.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a way to say no and have it seem as though like, hey, this is a strategic decision to say no. But you have to keep in mind the old principle of when you focus on everything, you focus on nothing.
Yeah.
So maybe in your heart, you might want to say yes, right? And I just want to please my boss. I want to please the people that work for me. But in your brain, you have to tell yourself, there's only so many hours in a day, so many days in a week. And if I want to be effective, I can't say yes to everything. Now, you could try to delegate things, right? That's one way of still saying yes, but not doing it yourself. Excuse me. That's not something I necessarily recommend. It could be used situationally.
Yeah.
But I say more than anything, especially, so we're talking about this from a leadership standpoint. And if we're saying yes all the time to the people that we lead, in our mind, we have to say to ourselves, we're doing them an injustice by doing all of this. It is our job to help them be better. So when I get asked to perform a task that maybe normally they would, or maybe they're not sure of, and it's new, there's a much higher return on investment of me sitting with that person and walking them through that task, helping them to understand what it is we're doing, why we're doing it, and then giving them the ultimate accountability. Their own path of growth.
Yeah.
And you're not adding another task to your already most likely full plate.
That's true. And actually, boundaries are so important.
Yeah.
If we set a boundary, what we're doing is teaching people what's good, bad, right, and wrong. You're letting them know that if you go too far, that things can happen and all that sort of stuff. You're actually teaching them They don't make you selfish. They probably actually see that as a strength, because people don't want to just be left flopping out in the wind. If they know what to expect, then they actually thrive a little bit more, because they know that there's a specific lane they got to be staying in. So
Yeah.
don't be afraid of setting boundaries. You know, boundaries can be what not to do, what to do. They can be steps to get a specific job done. I know in my safety role, when I wasn't in my own business, we had steps for people to get in and out of a truck. And the reason that we did that, the 3-point contact, you know, making sure you keep hands in a certain position, and that you're always stepping down and then getting back up the same way. And we did that because we had a lot of people, you know, from an OSHA standpoint, slips, trips, and falls are probably one of the biggest injuries out there. So,
Yep.
you know, when you set these boundaries, you don't, that's not necessarily always a punishable offense, but you know, they know that there are procedures to follow, procedures to follow, or boundaries that they use to get things done so that you avoid error or injury.
Yeah. Yeah. You really have to look at why we're doing a certain task. And it also comes down to you asking why you're being asked to do it, right? If your subordinates are asking you to do something that normally they would do, or you just want to kind of take it on yourself, you have to stop and ask yourself why.
Yeah.
Why do I feel as though I need to do this? Especially if it's someone else's job. So, or especially if it's something that someone knows they should be doing and they're just not. Hey, look, that's accountability, right? And we've got to hold people accountable instead of just doing their job for them. Because when you do that, let's look at it from this standpoint too. If you're always saying yes to this one person on the team, all right, yeah, I'll handle that. I'll get that taken care of. I'll dig you out of this hole again. The rest of the team sees that and they're like, why can't Joe Snuffy carry their weight?
Yeah.
Why are you always doing the job of Joe Snuffy? Now, not only are you, the leader, potentially going to start getting resentful because you're saying yes, and now you're the one working late and working on the weekends, but the rest of your team is going to see it. They're also going to start getting resentful and be like, you know what? Here I am busting my butt, but this guy or girl over here constantly just wants to raise their hand and ask the boss to do it. And then so many people get in this mindset of like, it's faster for me to just do it and get it over with than it is for me to either hold you accountable, show you how to do it, train you better. So this tunnel vision is really the wrong way to look at it.
Well, it's so much more than that. I mean, if you just enable people, we'll start off with one. If you enable one person to be allowed to just come to you every single time they have the smallest issue, that's not just going to create resentment. It could go the opposite way, which is an absolute freaking nightmare. And that's that more people on your team are going to be like, well, I don't have to figure stuff out. The manager's just going to come over and do it for me. Or he's going to come over and save the day.
Yep.
And now you, as the manager on the other side of things, you're just going to be overwhelmed because you're not going to get any of your managerial tasks done. You're going to be always over holding hands every day.
Yeah.
You don't want to hold hands every day. Your job is not to hold hands. It's to empower these people to figure this shit out.
That's right.
And at the end of all of it, that's really what you want. You want your people to learn and to grow, not to always look for a way out.
That's right.
And I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that is so much worse than resentment.
Yeah.
I would rather be resented than to have to hold hands all day.
Oh, yeah. It is worse than resentment because now you're creating a culture of lack of trying, for lack of a better word. You're enabling your people to just give up when it gets hard and being their safety net. And that's kind of where the dichotomy comes in, right? To an extent, as the leader, you are the safety net for your people. But if your people are walking on a high wire up here, you could be the safety net that's only 15 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
But if you're always doing their job for them, you become the safety net that's only 5 feet away from the high wire.
Yeah.
So,
because they're going to be so afraid of making mistakes that they're just going to come to you for everything.
exactly.
Yeah. No, that's freaking horrible.
Yeah. And, the other piece of that is it puts you into this like micromanagement mindset when you're doing everything for everyone else. So now, on one hand, you can feel like you've got control of how it's getting done, when it's getting done, but you start to project that onto other people. Hey, you know what? This is how I've been doing it. That's how I've been doing your job. So now this is how you need to do it. When you finally snap and give up and say, I'm done with this shit, take your job back. Now you're going to start micromanaging it because you're seeing how well it was going when you were doing it. And now you expect people to be exactly how you were. That's not a good place to be either.
No, I'd like to say it's not. And, here's another interesting dichotomy to balance, as you just said, is leading without apologizing. You want to be empathetic. You don't necessarily always want to be apologetic. Obviously, if you make mistakes, you own up to them. That's not what I'm referring to. But when you are a leader with a team, sometimes you have to make decisions that people won't like.
Mhm.
And they're going to let you know that they don't like it. Well, you can't please everyone. And so you don't necessarily apologize.
Right.
That doesn't mean you can't say sorry. Hey, sorry you don't like it. Don't say sorry for giving them the task. Sorry you don't like it, but this is just what has to be done. And you do that because, holding that hard line lets them know that they can't walk all over you. The yes man, the people pleaser will say, "Oh, no, they don't like it. This is what's going to be going on in their head. I got to find something else for them to do. But oh no, what if Johnny or Sue don't like that? What if this other person doesn't like that?" And then they're just going to scramble trying to figure out, what to do. If they don't give this person that task, what are they going to do? No. You should not always hold a hard line as a leader. You have empathy. Of course you care that these guys don't like the job. You might not even like the job that you just got done giving them. Would you do it if you were told to do it? That's what you need to consider. If you're not even willing to do that job at all, if that's not part of the job description for any of your people, it's not your job description, and it's unethical to even accept that job in the first place, then you shouldn't have done it. But if that's part of your responsibility and you have to divvy that out, you hold that hard line. I'm sorry, you got to do it.
Yeah. And, what I'll say is a little different approach, but I'm not a fan of, excuse me, I'm not a fan of saying, hey, I'm sorry you don't like that, or taking the approach that you have, because not for a lack of empathy, but for more of a, like, look, let's come together here. I will phrase things and I'll want to say, look, I'm sorry that you have to do this, but it needs to get done, kind of thing. Like, what I'll say instead is, look, I know that this task sucks. I know that this isn't optimal. I know that this might take an extra hour out of the day, but this is why it needs to get done. This is why you're being asked to do it. I just refrain from the I'm sorry side.
Yeah.
And I just kind of shifted to like, hey, look, you know what? I get it. So I empathize without saying the I'm sorry, because in my mind, saying I'm sorry that you're doing this kind of implicates me in, like, you know what? I'm shoveling shit onto you that I don't want to do. And I'm sorry.
Even if it's true.
Even if it's true.
Well, yeah, but every leadership style is a little bit different. I obviously still explain, but sometimes it depends. I know that there are guys where I can literally laugh at them when they say something like that and say shut up and color. Some
Right.
people get so downtrodden when they get something that they don't like that they need somebody just to empathize with them. Some people, you can take a different approach. I mean, obviously you can't treat everyone the same, so that's always something to consider, but
Right.
you have to you have to make sure you get to the root cause of why they don't like it and address that without apologizing for giving them the task. I mean, at the end of the day, if they don't do it, somebody else has to.
Right.
And regardless of what your leadership style is, not just you, but everybody in the audience, Chris,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who gets the work, it's got to get done. And when a business machine is going and things are assigned, you can't just say no all the time. I mean,
Right.
there are just certain times where you're just going to have to say, hey, you know what? We got this task today. We got to suck the giant egg. Let's go out and do it.
Right. And there are some times that, depending on the task, and if we're using the example that you laid out where, hey, it's not part of your normal day to day, it's not even part of your job description, but something just needs to get done. Those are the times that you, as a leader, stepping up and working like shoulder to shoulder with your people, builds your leadership capital.
Oh, yeah.
And look, I know that this isn't part of your job description. It's not part of mine either. Neither one of us want to do this. So you know what? We're going to combine forces and we're going to get it done to the best of our ability. And then we're going to move on with our lives.
Yeah. Yep.
So those are the times that the true empathy is you rolling up your sleeves next to the other person and helping to get it done.
Yeah. And I think there's one part to this whole people pleasing thing that we have not addressed yet. And for the most part, we've addressed most of it. But when you are a manager or a director and you have a supervisor or something that works for you that's suffering from, having employees of their own that are pushing back and they're not wanting to hold that hard line and they want to be liked or whatever the case may be, you really do have to address that too. That you don't just dismiss that. There's a reason that person needs that sort of approval. And so making sure that you are addressing that instead of just saying, hey, look, you can't please everybody and then walking away. That person obviously has an issue that needs to be addressed. You got to talk to them about some fear that they are. It's probably a lie. Most fears are lie, false evidence appearing real, but addressing that with your subordinates, because at the end of the day, I think most people show up just trying to do the right thing. That supervisor, chicken or not, is probably just trying to do the right thing. And so, make sure you pull them off to the side, address those things, and, don't just address it that one time. Make sure you're checking in every day, every other day, whatever the case may be, because that's not something that's going to be solved in one conversation. And you know what? That's a real thing. I'm a leadership trainer. Chris he was a leadership trainer before I was, before I started, and then he went back to corporate. I'm sure you'd still deal with the same stuff at the corporate level.
Sure.
And at the end of the day, we owe it. You may think that these people are weak and it's not your responsibility, but if they work for you, or if they come to you for help and they don't work for you, it's your responsibility as a senior person in that company to help them address that, because nobody goes from scared to manage to perfect overnight. And so, I really think that's the only thing we haven't addressed is you got to make sure you're squaring your people away. If they're not ready to lead if they could do great in 50 to 80% of the whole management job as a whole, but struggle in a few percentages that they're really, really struggling to get over. And mentorship is important. Most corporate places do not address that stuff. Don't be that person.
Right.
Make sure you're teaching your people, coaching them, and you stay there for them throughout the process so that they can get better.
So that's a really great point. And that really comes back to the relationships that you build with the people who report to you.
Mhm.
You have to man, I'm sorry.
It's that time of year.
It is, man. When you build that relationship with somebody, not only are you getting to know them better, they're getting to know you, but you'll find when you've got that person who's a supervisor or maybe they're a line manager, director, they can sometimes be hesitant to come to the senior person and say, I've got a fear of this. And they're not going to use the word fear,
No.
right? But for whatever reason, I can't do X, Y, or Z. You start to see that, you can spot that before they come and talk to you so that you can address it, proactively. But it comes down to that relationship where you've got to make sure that your people aren't afraid to come talk to you about things that they're afraid of in their
Yeah.
work world. And you've got to be the person who demonstrates that empathy that we've talked about, but also kind of that's your time to be like the pillar of strength. And that pillar of like resolve. Hey, you know what? Yeah, I've been there too. Share some stories. Here's the one thing that I tell senior leaders all the time is share with your people the times that you have felt a way that they're feeling and how you've overcome it. Hey, look, it's not the end of the world. I remember this time that, blah, blah, blah. And that's how you connect with them. That's how you help each other to learn about each other and then to be able to move on.
Yeah.
So yeah, the relationships, I can't count how many times you and I have talked about the importance of relationships in a leadership position.
Yeah.
And this is one of those times too. Your relationship helps you to say no, first of all, and to help others overcome fears or to take on things that they don't want to do. You know what? You got a good relationship with your subordinate and you ask them to do something, 9 times out of 10, they're going to do it just because of that great relationship that you have.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
build those relationships and you won't put yourself in that spot of having to say no all the time.
Well, not only that, but if you don't have that relationship, having that conversation with them when you notice that that's an issue, they're probably going to be more closed off than they are open with you to be able to get that
Absolutely.
problem solved.
Yep.
But the other part to that is that this is why you don't lead from the office.
Right.
If you have a physical location that you go to work every day, virtual makes things a little bit more interesting.
Mhm.
You have to have a lot more feedback conversations than normal outside of your regular conversations to be able to figure this out. But if you work in the same location, so many people get caught up in leading from the office, staring at numbers, looking at reports, answering emails. If that's what you think your job is, all the way up to the top,
Yep.
just isn't. You have to establish that rapport that we're referring to right now by actually getting off your ass and going to talk to people and observing what they do. And
Yep.
by the way, if you stop observing what your people do, then you lose touch with what they do. And then the things that they brief you no longer make sense. So make sure you're not just leading from the office. There's a lot to that.
Yep.
I mean, we could definitely do a whole conversation about leading from the office because it's a very complex issue that a lot of people fall into because they think that because they move up, they don't have to do that shit anymore. Well, that's not true. That, you still stay involved to a certain point. That doesn't necessarily mean you're on the ground doing the work like you were 10 years ago, but you still have to be, oh, look at my buddy just popped in. But it does mean that you have to at least have conversations with those people that are out there doing things. And that helps you remain sharp and it helps you build rapport.
Yeah. I refer to it as lead from your feet, not from your seat. And if you were to talk to any of the people that I currently work with who report to me, they'll tell you that I see them in their environment more than they see me in my office.
That's the way it should be.
And that's exactly the way it should be.
If they see you in your environment, that just means that you're having a closed door conversation.
Right.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's definitely you not meeting them where they are most of the time, which is what we should be doing in the workplace.
That's right. Yep, exactly.
Yep. Well, we reached the end of the conversation. Before I do my final book promo, do you have any closing comments there, Chris?
Yeah, my closing comments are just be very mindful about taking on too much and identifying when it's an actual opportunity for your people. This is a learning opportunity. This is an opportunity for you to get better, and realize, like, put that kind of parent hat on. Even if you're not a parent yet, you can pick up what I'm putting down. The more you do for others, the more they're going to become reliant on you, and you don't want to be resentful towards the people that you lead. So it's better to teach them and help them through things than to just take things off their plate. It's not faster and easier if you do it. That is something that will bite you in the ass.
Yeah. I have a post scheduled out. I've been doing, I just started it yesterday, actually, where I do this thing where I take phrases and fun words and I talk about the leadership perspective behind them. But I have one coming up in a couple weeks that talks about do what I say, not as I do. And,
okay.
This kind of falls into that, right? I mean, if you want people to do what they're supposed to do, but you don't want them to not be reliant on you to a certain extent, you still want to be that hinge point for them. So everything that we talked about for the past 5 minutes negates the do as I say, not as I do, because, that means, I'm going to sit in my office and you're going to shut the hell up and do it. And what we're referring to here is always a lead by example approach. And you should always want to do that. You're not an example in your office. You're not an example if you're just spouting off things at the beginning of every day and then just expecting things to get done. I mean, that's obviously an expectation that you should have when you hire people to do a job. But at the end of the day, it's trust but verify. So that's where, you're not just going out on the floor to build rapport. You're going out on the floor to have these conversations. Build that relationship. Your people will trust you to come to you with issues, but then hold them accountable to get the stuff done instead of always trying to solve it for them.
That's right.
And that's really my closing comment.
Awesome.
Now, it's a good book, my friends. Speak up, show up, lead. It's my story of grit, growth, and leadership from the ground up. Lessons learned from my crazy ass life. Feel free to check it out. Speak up, show up, lead. Amazon.com. Please go buy it.
Read the book and leave a review.
And don't forget to leave a review. Right. My goodness, so many people tell me in person that it's good, but then I'm not getting any feedback on digits. People need to see that to buy the book.
That's right.
No, but no, if you want to buy it and not leave a review, I'm still okay with that. But I would like some feedback on Amazon. That would really help me out, or at least an email that I could put on my website would be really, really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. Thank you everybody for watching today. If you did, haven't had any comments down here in my window, but that doesn't mean that you won't follow up later. So whether you're watching now or watching later, don't forget to like, subscribe, share. And if you're on my Facebook, please subscribe. And yeah, don't forget to leave a comment below. Let us know what you would like to hear from us. And if you liked something or didn't like something in the video that we talked about today, I don't mind a conversation, even if it's a little bit controversial. Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah, don't threaten me with a good time. Everyone, thank you again. Stay blessed. We'll see you next time.
Have a great week.